Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about hiring people for your startup. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, I want to hire a web developer for my e-commerce startup company. Where and how can I hire a good person? Well, this is where you're gonna have to put your faith in, if you don't know this, because I assume since you're asking that you don't know, you're gonna have to put your faith in somebody else's advice. That's what you're gonna have to do. The best thing possible for you is if you know a senior developer or someone who is really good. But that's the problem even there. Even if you because I have guys like that I've worked with who say, oh yeah, oh, I have this friend or I have this person that I know that he and she or whatever they say that, oh, everybody should be able to do this and that and so forth, and I kind of go, well, it's great that you're getting your information from such a quality source. I had that exact thing happen to me once upon a time with my friend who, when we were kids, he tried to explain to me that my clock was wrong because all the clocks in his house showed a different time than mine. And I just stood there and I said, "But dude, what? But that just because you have a Yes, I mean, one clock could have been wrong, and you set all your other clocks wrong, and now you think that just because you have a bunch of clocks that you have the right answer, and you have the same problem. You can have 100 friends, and since you can't evaluate if they're actually good at software development, it's hard for you to completely trust them, but you have to trust somebody because you don't know any better. So that is my first and primary thing that I will give you as advice. Try to find someone you can trust to do the evaluation for you. If that fails, do the thing that practically every single company on this planet does, which is to copy paste what Google does or Facebook or any. It doesn't have to be any of the big companies. Just there is a sphere of people who really are enthusiastic about defining recruitment processes and hiring processes. You can even hire companies that do the testing for you, that actually evaluate if you have a good person or not, to varying success rates and so forth. There are many consultancies or code challenge companies where basically what you do is you buy into their service and then you present that to the developer that you're looking into, and if they can pass it, then you go with it. Now that sounds like a really kind of wild west and like naive way of doing it, but remember, you have nothing else to go on. That's the problem when you're starting anything fresh. It's the same problem for software developers. A software developer doesn't really know what the expectations on them are. So you kind of just have to make a bet. You have to just listen to people around you and see, okay, what is everybody else talking about? And then since you don't know any better, just go with the thing that seems popular and cross your fingers. Because even if you get it wrong, even if you get a bad hiring process or so forth, you're still going to get somebody. And sure, if that person is really bad, it's going to hurt your company. But at the same time, if you don't know how to hire a good person for your startup, you probably don't even know the first thing about what good software looks like. So what you're going to have to look at is, what are your expectations? And this is another thing that is really tricky, because if you are out of sync with what is reasonable, you don't really know if the person you got is good or bad. This is an alignment problem. It's a really big alignment problem because you don't have, you yourself, as I like to call, you're an inexperienced stakeholder, and that is just as dangerous as having a really bad software developer. Because even if you, I really believe that your only bet here is to go by gut feeling and look at your needs. So if your company needs to, I don't know, grow really, really fast, or like you have to look at your restrictions. Do you have enough cash to hire a very experienced programmer, or do you have to find someone who's a little bit more junior or so forth? Like at the end of the day, you're just gonna have to make a guess here. That is what you're going to be faced with. And in terms of hiring and finding people and so forth, you have recruitment options. You can do the thing that the recruiters are doing, which is just basically go and look at profiles. And if you Google right now how to hire a good developer, there's going to be 100 articles on what varying types of people are looking for and so forth, and just pick snippets, because as I said, it's basically a crapshoot for you. You don't know what you're looking for, and all you can really do is go by the thing that is popular, the thing that everybody else is trying to get at, and then learn from that experience. and this is where it's kind of good in many cases, if you ask me at the very least, that if you're going to start a startup company, don't like either you have to really take your time and get a good like go for quantity in terms of like hiring people. I'm not saying hiring people by quantity, I'm saying interview people by quantity and find someone who feels good. That's number one, because getting a good person for you, I think when you don't know any better, is it's better for you to match on a personal level, connect with the person at the personal level, make sure that you feel comfortable communicating with this person. This person doesn't have to be the best developer who ever lived. They just have to be a person where you trust them enough that you can communicate effectively. That is probably, especially in the start of things, depending on how big your startup is, it's one of the best thing ever. Just to have someone you feel comfortable with, because if you can build trust with that individual first and foremost, that's going to set a very good tone for everything that comes after. Because even if that first person isn't the best developer in the world, well, as long as they can get you to the next hire, to the next developer, well, then you now have someone who can give you a bit of reference, and they will be able to tell you, if you really have that trust built up between you, that this other developer that you're looking for right now, they would be a really good fit, or like they're not so good, and so forth. Now you have more of a guidance. You have the thing that I was saying, then you have another developer who can tell you if this is a good or bad person. But in order for you to trust the opinion of this person, you really have to have that personal chemistry, especially in the early days. Personal chemistry is a lot more important than just raw coding skills when you're first starting out. Uh, it's not always the case, but for most companies that's going to be the case. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you're looking to find good developers, join the club. There is an enormous demand for them. The places you usually find them is either on freelancing sites or something like that, or you go to LinkedIn or whichever like job posting type of site. You can post things to job postings. You can post things on Stack Overflow. You can just connect with people. That is probably one of the most effective ways. That's a lot of man hours for you to put in, but it is absolutely possible. You can hire recruiters to offload that from you as well, and so forth. And then in terms of finding someone who's good, you really only have to go to the internet, because you have no other frame of reference unless you have a friend or someone who is a pretty good developer that you trust. You're not going to be able to evaluate effectively if you're hiring a good or a bad developer. That's going to be a learning process for you. So I suggest to you that you do your research, go to Google and search for how to hire good developers, etc., etc. There's so many articles on ways to do it and so forth, and just pick something that seems applicable to your situation, and then start looking into people. Don't just hire the first person. Like, interview a fair range of people. That's going to take a little while, and try to find someone that you click with first and foremost, because the early hires are usually very important for your startup. It's fairly important that you work at the good personal level, because there's going to be pressure times, there's going to be sharp deadlines, and sometimes overtime and all of that stuff. And it's really important that you find someone who is good enough to do the job, but is even better connected with you at the personal level. That is a match that is going to lead to success. And once you have that in place, you can, when you expand the company, try to use this person to hire even better developers. So really go for personal chemistry in the beginning of things, and then of course, find a way of evaluating their coding skill. Usually the easiest way for you to do that is to hire a service that does code tests for you, or look at code test examples and so forth, and provide some type of coding challenge. There are varying ranges, but anything will practically do when you don't know any better. Have a great day.